Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Redemption songs. I'm on TV, on Rebel News.
Express yourself, on social media. Use all the platforms that you can have to express yourself and say to your establishment politicians that you want to bring back your freedom.
Get up and stand up or you will lose your freedom. This is not a dress rehearsal, folks.
You can't trust mainstream media. You guys gotta support these guys. These guys tell the truth. In 2 weeks, everything's back to normal, guys. Premier Ford says so, and we're not naive to listen to him.
I dearly love Ontario, and I think of the song, the Ontario, a place to stand, a place to grow. And right now it's a place to cower, a place to stay at home, a place to snitch on your neighbors. And I think that's terrible, and we need to get back to Ontario again.
I actually think we're in the it's got to get bad before it gets good phase. So I'm actually quite hopeful for his future. I think his generation is going to come from parents like myself and others who speak up and who are vocal about what they want, and I think that can only do good things.
Well, the march has gone on. The protesters have left Queen's Park, and I'm hesitant to put a number on it. There was thousands, tens of thousands of people here. I watched them march out of Queen's Park, and it was a solid 20 minutes at least of them just getting out of this park alone. Didn't see any mainstream media within the actual protest. They sort of stayed on the peripheral. Double masked is what I saw. So I will look forward to seeing what the mainstream reports on that happened here at the Worldwide Freedom Rally in Queen's Park in downtown Toronto. We heard from several Canadians who just want freedom. They don't want to be told by our government to stay home. As you could see from the attendance here today, people are not staying home in Ford Nation.
Won't you help me sing the songs of freedom? Was all I ever had. Redemption songs. I'm on TV, on Rebel News.
Maxime, great to see you out. So you've been a constant advocate here at these rallies, and what has your experience been? Have you seen the growth happening at the protests?
Absolutely. I started to speak against these draconian lockdowns more than 10 months ago. And at that time, it was not so popular. But as you know, I'm traveling across the country. I was in BC, in Edmonton, in Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatoon, and more people are coming to these rallies. And I think it's important. If we want a big change in our country, we need to tell our establishment politicians that enough is enough. And we had a big march in Montreal, as you know. I was there. I know it's a little tough for you, for the Rebel News, to be there. And, I'm not proud of that as a Quebecer. But that being said, we need to do more, and that's only the beginning. But I can tell you that the main message right now to these draconian and authoritarian governments across the country, you must stop that. You won't have the support of the population because there's a silent majority out there that are looking at us. And I think they know that we are fighting for their freedom, and we will do that together. And we know that when you fight for freedom, that unites us, and that's important. You have people from different ethnicity, different race, different faith that are coming here, and people that came from former Russia and Yugoslavia that are came here in Canada to celebrate freedom. And right now they're scared, and I'm scared with them. So let's be out there and fight for what we believe.
To be sure that every Canadian understands the importance of fighting for what we believe.
Bill C-10, I know you and Alexa touched on it quickly, but how will something like that affect how these rallies and this sentiment grows or is squashed?
Yeah, that's a censorship, and we cannot tolerate that in Canada. That bill must not pass. Can you imagine if you're a YouTuber with a lot of viewers and you'll be regulated by the CRTC. The CRTC will tell you what to say in your private own channel. So you cannot have that in Canada. That's communist. And you can count on the People's Party of Canada. We are against that. And actually, we want to go further. We want to abolish the CRTC. So more freedom. And I don't believe that more regulations on social media will help. You know, we need to have more freedom. We need to have more debates. And that will help to have a better society. Right now, the censorship on social media is there, and we have a censorship also with the mainstream media. They don't want to speak about what is happening right now here. They don't want us to debate. I'm ready to debate. I think we have the science on our side, and it's not about science anymore. It's about compliance. It's about controlling the population, and people here understand that.
When there was talk of us going from the stay-at-home order to the gray zone or whatever, I remember my mom was very upset because she thought that meant that she would be allowed to go out and meet her friends for coffee and do the things that gives her life meaning and joy, that brings her happiness. And that's going out for a cappuccino with her friends and meeting up and chatting and stuff like that. And she's still not able to do that. She's fortunate that, and we're fortunate that she's not in a home somewhere and we're not prevented from seeing her. But yeah, I think elderly people, yes, we want to protect them, but they don't have that much time. And the quality of their life, I mean, it's no good extending the quantity if the quality is shitty.
You want, can I say kiss my thong arse? Can I? It turned into a bit of a farce. I was only going to do it a couple of times, but then I got contacted by people, one woman in particular who fled from an abusive relationship. She said she'd been in the same underwear for 7 days. She can't get clothing. She had to wear a towel in the shelter while they couldn't find her clothing. She had to wear a towel and wash her clothing. Clothing's not essential. That's our leader. And instead of giving billions of dollars away to China and the rest of the world, they should have built more hospitals back when they said we were going to need them. Now they're blaming us and shutting all the small businesses down. Screw that.
I come from a place where communism was rampant and suppressed the lives of many people for many years. And I was actually ticketed at a demonstration at Tiananmen, at Dundas Square. And Mr. Menzies came to help me, so I'm very grateful to your Rebel News and what you people stand for. I came today to support some friends who are Policia, who are supporting standing down, because it's very important. It's very precarious. The police officers who are active on duty are actually in a very tough situation. They have a lot of pressure on them on both sides. But the Constitution does not go off duty. And many of them understand that. The oath that they have to the Constitution never goes off duty. We are being misled by the media. In Russia, it was called Pravda, and they called it truth. But, Abraham Lincoln said, if a dog's tail is his leg, how many legs does he have? And some people say 5, but the answer is actually 4, because a tail is not a leg. So just because the press tells you something does not mean it's true. And I mean mainstream press, because I know you people are very diligent alternative media.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about this picture that you have here?
This is my mom, Elizaveta. She was in World War II, and she was a nurse. I'm a nurse now. She told me stories about how she was fighting for our freedom against Nazi, against no freedom in the USSR after World War II. What she was telling me, terrible stories. What now I'm feeling, we have no truth. What government telling us, what they're telling us, it's not truth.
Peter, you own a greenhouse just west of Niagara, and you have remained open, is what I understand.
So I have remained open. Now I have been legally allowed to stay open, but I feel right now what we need to do, these measures are totally unreasonable to lock down all businesses. Now the government, out of the kindness of their heart, they allowed greenhouse businesses to stay open. And so that to me is great, but really all businesses should be open.
What do you think of the CFIB and Dan Kelly's stance to just keep increasing the government handouts to small businesses versus advocating to open?
I think what we need to do is we need to get people off their knees and get them on their feet. I think paying businesses to stay closed is absolutely the wrong thing. We need to get people back to work. Government needs to get out of the way. Government doesn't need to give more money. Government needs to get out of the way and let people make a living, let people live their lives in freedom and normally.
Did you ever think you would see this much red tape from a conservative government?
To me, it's not a conservative government anymore. I mean, I've always been a conservative. I'm now a member of the PPC and I'm a candidate in Niagara Falls, in the riding of Niagara Falls. And I've never imagined that the Conservatives would be so anti-conservative in terms of their policy and in terms of their ideas. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, we just wanted to come out and support and be with like-minded people. We're standing here kind of in awe at how it feels so nice to see faces and
maskless faces.
Smiles and close to people, move through a crowd and not feel that weird vibe. And we're just really happy to be here.
I don't know if you're familiar, but the Canadian Pediatric Society just came out and said that the harms of lockdowns are disproportionately affecting children. And so I see you have a child here. Is that a main concern of yours?
100%. I think parents are obviously just looking at this through a different lens. My son is 2 in a couple weeks, so he has spent about a year of his life
half of his life, yeah. Just witnessing a small human grow around this energy, the masks, he's weirded out around people with masks. It just flips the whole script. So 1,000%, he is like 99% of my motivation, and then the rest of the world opens up, and here in Doug Ford's Ontario we just get more and more locked down. Can you make sense of it?
Absolutely not. It's that's why people just got to say no, stand up and say no, and just take back our freedoms, because again it's the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's what we have.
Do you think that as the numbers grow each week with the protests that the government will start to listen, or how do you think that the voices can finally start to be heard?
I mean, anything is possible. I have faith, and I think people just got to stick together. Only through love and positivity and light can we basically overcome what's to come.
We create businesses. We have a right, a God-given right to own it. Now, to listen to this tyrant to tell you to shut down your business, that's up to you. Claim your God-given rights.
And I can tell you that in the end, freedom will win.
Here at Rebel, we've definitely heard several sentiments over the last year plus of people coming from communist countries sounding alarm bells, but the government's not listening. What do you think? Is it the lawsuits? Is it growth in numbers at protests? How do we get the government to listen?
It's both. It's the lawsuit, yes, but we need a change in the public opinion. The politician will react. The establishment politicians are looking at the poll, are looking at the survey, and they will change if the public opinion change. But I can tell you, I'm not doing politics like that. I'm doing politics based on principles, and I know that our ideas, our freedom ideas, may not be as popular as today, but they will become popular. So what we need to do, we need to speak. We need to speak to our colleagues, speak to our family, our friends, and more people will be in these kind of rallies, the more importance that will be and the more impact we'll have. And in the end, I believe that these government will have to listen to their population.
I honestly think now that the government isn't listening. Like Ford's, Bill 195 or whatever, where he just shuts off all debate, really, in the legislature. He's got a majority, he can do what he wants, so I don't think we can get things to change there. I think it will take protests and things like this, a groundswell from the people speaking up. And that's why I'm proud. I've always been proud to be a member of the PPC, but I think it's amazing that our party is the only federal party speaking out against lockdowns and restrictions. And provincially, and a lot of this comes from the provincial government. So I'm going to look into the new Blue Party of Ontario and support them, because I don't know. It's not the traditional means of having a debate in the legislature are lost. They're not listening. I would say I understand that you are afraid and that you are worried that deaths will be laid at your doorstep if you open up. But there are going to be deaths and far more deaths caused by the lockdown. So you need to listen to the people, not the pollsters, not the media, the mass media, mainstream media, and have the courage to lead and to open up this province and to let people, Ontarians, live the way they used to live. I mean, I dearly love Ontario, and I think of the song, the Ontario Aerial, a place to stand, a place to grow. And right now it's a place to cower, a place to stay at home, a place to snitch on your neighbors. And I think that's terrible, and we need to get back to Ontario again. And
Doug, you have actually created a worse scenario for the Ford brand than the Ford Pinto ever could have. You have been a weak leader, and I know many people who vote for you. You are a businessman who is making stickers to go on floors to tell us which way to walk down the aisle, so I know your business is not suffering. Doug, it's time to wake up. Your brother and your father are watching you, Doug.
What's your message for fellow Canadians?
We have to keep fighting. We have to speak up. We have to say that these lockdowns are illegitimate. The laws, the Reopening Ontario Act is illegitimate. It violates our most basic rights. We need to go back to the first principles of freedom, justice, family values, and protection of the vulnerable. If we go back to those four basic things, I think we're going to be on solid ground. That has worked through all of history, that if we stick to the fundamentals, the basic, those first principles, we'll be on solid ground and our country will be great again.
Express yourself, on social media. Use all the platforms that you can have to express yourself and say to your establishment politicians that you want to bring back your freedom. That's not Canada. And, step by step, I think they will understand. But also the best message would be at the next election to vote for a party that believes in freedom. And I'm sorry to say that, but we are the only one here today. The Conservative Party of Canada is not here, the Liberal, the NDP. So I think the choice will be clear for the freedom fighters at the next general election.
In world history, in World War II, pre-World War II, in Greece, they used the word oxe, which is O-X-I, which means no. They just said no, and they celebrate that every year. So hopefully everybody, aside from the people here who are awake, will just say niet, no, oshi. Get up and stand up or you will lose your freedom. This is not a dress rehearsal, folks. This is very, very real. Don't take it for granted. If they could censor Don Cherry, they can censor you.
Premier Ford said that there's only 2 more weeks and then it'll all be over.
Where have we heard that before?
And we know that in 2 weeks it'll all be back to normal because Premier Ford says that. So that's really promising news. But wait a second, you know what? I think I've heard that a few times now, and there's been a few times that I've heard that. So I'm thinking I may not take it as truth just yet.
As verbatim from the Ford government, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, 15 months and counting.
Yeah. So maybe this time, this is the real deal. He's not lying. 2 more weeks to flatten the curve. This is it. In 2 weeks, everything's back to normal, guys. Premier Ford says so. And we're not naive to listen to him.
According to the government, and you guys are out there because mainstream media always tells the truth, right? Sorry, did I say that with a grin on my face? They're saying that, a week or so ago, there was 2 to 3% of Canada was vaccinated. Now it's 40%. You can't get an MRI for 3 months. You can't get an appointment with your doctor for a week. You can't trust mainstream media. You guys got to support these guys. These guys tell the truth. David Menzies, all the way, baby.
And on that note, there are probably over 1,000 people here already. So if the mainstream media comes out and says a couple hundred, we're just getting started and there's got to be over 1,000. Do you worry about future generations, what his social circle or the dynamic will look like?
To be honest, I actually don't. I actually think that this is really good. I think that everything that's happened obviously has shown us a lot of terrible sides of losing our freedoms, etc. But I actually think we're in the it's got to get bad before it gets good phase. So I'm actually quite hopeful for his future. I think his generation is going to come from parents like myself and others who speak up and who are vocal about what they want, and I think that can only do good things.
There were a few individuals that fled communist countries who are sounding alarm bells on what they are seeing happening here in Canada. And that should concern all Canadians, especially from one's perspective of who has lived this life before. The consensus seems to be that people will continue to come out and protest, and as the numbers grow, the hope is that the government will start to listen, as we've seen the last year. The lockdowns continue, restrictions become increasingly egregious and restrictive. So only time will tell if these people actually get an ear from the Ford government. For Rebel News in Queen's Park, covering the Worldwide Freedom Rally, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Unlike the federally funded propaganda machine, the team of Rebel journalists, editors, and videographers have been bringing you on-the-ground reporting like never before. And because other news outlets aren't doing it, we've been forced to put out more people to more places just to bring you the stories that you want to see. We can't do this work without our generous donors. Head on over to lockdownreports.com to help fund this important work. That's lockdownreports.com.